This segment of DelmarvaLife is brought to you by Peninsula Regional Medical Center.
Okay, a real quick heads up for you here. What we're about to talk about has adult information, so this would be a perfect time to send a little Johnny or Susie into the other room to do something, maybe some chores or something, but it's very important health information for you to be able to explain to them when you're comfortable. It was nearly 24 years ago when basketball great Earvin Magic Johnson announced to the world that he had HIV, the AIDS virus. Johnson said he tested positive for the virus after a required blood screening for an insurance policy. During the press conference, Johnson said he promised to use his popularity in order to increase awareness about the disease. He also urged youth to practice safe sex and warned that the virus can happen to anybody. Well, here we are, nearly a quarter of a century later, and officials have declared an HIV epidemic right here in the U.S.
Yeah, a small town in Indiana along a major thoroughfare is now consumed by the disease. Officials say 55 people have tested positive in the town, 17 in surrounding counties, and more are expected in the state's largest outbreak of HIV ever. Intravenous drug use to the drug Opana and sex with prostitutes are being blamed. Now, it's interesting to note Scott County has been without an HIV testing center since early 2013. That's when Planned Parenthood Clinic, the county's sole testing center, was forced to close its doors.
So how big of a problem is it? Well, the CDC estimates more than 1.2 million people 13 or older are now living with HIV in the U.S. 1 in 7 people don't even know they're infected with a disease that causes AIDS. More than 650,000 people have died with an AIDS diagnosis.
Here on Delmarva, 2 of our 3 states rank in the top 15 of stats nationwide with the most cases. According to the National Center for AIDS HIV's 2011 numbers, Maryland ranks 6th with more than 1,700 people diagnosed. Virginia is 14th with nearly 1,100 new cases, and Delaware ranks 34 of 50 with 127 people diagnosed.
You've got to agree, those are some pretty remarkable numbers. Now, we don't hear that much about it anymore. So for many people, it's no longer really a concern. And that's definitely not the case.
No, but that's not the only sexually transmitted disease that's still alive and spreading. Well, here to enlighten us on just how big of a problem STDs are here on Delmarva and which ones we should be concerned about are Beth Prouse, clinical microbiologist, and Matt Penrose, lab outreach manager at Peninsula Regional Medical Center. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. So, Beth, I got to start with you. How big of a problem are STDs here on Delmarva?
We have a significant problem here on Delmarva. Wicomico County has the 4th highest rate of chlamydia in Maryland, and it has the 2nd highest rate of gonorrhea in Maryland.
Wow.
Okay, so now there's another one. It's not really an STD, I guess. Instead of a sexually transmitted disease, it's a sexually transmitted infection. Tell me about that one.
That's trichomonas,
Okay.
Trichomonas vaginalis. We call it trick for short. So that's a parasitic infection, and it is modal.
What's that mean, modal?
That means that unlike bacteria, the parasite can move around inside the body.
Really? Ooh. Oh, okay. So explain the difference between bacterial, viral, and parasitic.
Bacteria and parasites can reproduce on their own. Viruses have to invade one of our cells and take over the genetic machinery of our cells in order to be able to reproduce. Bacteria and parasites can usually be treated very well with antibiotics. Viruses, we have very limited options to treat a viral infection.
So give us some examples of a bacterial infection.
Yeah. Chlamydia and gonorrhea are both bacterial infections. Trichomonas is a protozoan infection, a parasite, and then HPV and HIV are both viral infections.
Gotcha.
Now, untreated, these can lead to some pretty serious problems down the road.
Yes, it can lead to pelvic inflammatory disease for females. It can lead to infertility, and it can also, trichomonas can lead to early delivery if a lady is pregnant, and which can cause a low birth weight infant.
Oh, okay. So how do you know if you have one of these sexually transmitted diseases?
So some of the symptoms are that there's a discharge or burning upon urination.
Right.
And discharge can be from the genital area as well.
Okay. Well, And sometimes there's not even signs at
Yeah,
all?
sometimes there's no signs at all.
Really?
Yeah, typically in men with the trichomonas infection. One thing that is important to note, when I said it was modal, it does not move throughout the body, it stays in the genital area.
Gotcha. So with the asymptomatic, you do want to be tested, right? It's important.
Yes, it is. And that's one of the things that we have committed to is we brought in new technology to make testing. The testing that we do is by nucleic acid.
Okay.
So we're not trying to grow the organism. We're not trying to look for the organism under the microscope like we used to now for trichomonas. We can test for it at a very sensitive level with this new technology that PRMC has brought in-house. So when you go to your physician, you can have a sample collected there. Not all the samples are invasive.
Right.
It can be as easy as a urine sample for a male. It could just be part of your Pap testing. We can do all of the testing off the Pap testing for females. But you have that discussion with your physician about getting the test done.
Okay. Matt, break this down a little bit more for me. You're saying that the trick is modal. And this new testing system that you've got in the lab, you don't look for the same thing that you looked for before, right?
Correct. In the past, we would look for a modal organism under the microscope.
Which means it moves.
Which means it moves. It has a flagella on it, which is a whip-like tail that helps
right.
it become modal. And in the past, we would need an infection of up to 10,000 organisms just to detect a single trichomonas.
Okay.
Now, because we're testing for nucleic acid,
Which is teeny tiny.
very small, very small.
Okay.
So we're able to detect a fraction of a trichomonas, not even a whole trichomonas, and it doesn't have to be alive at this point.
But just like many other things, prevention is key, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So what can we do?
Well, reducing the number of sexual partners you have reduces your risk of contracting any of these infections. When you do have sex, it's important to use a condom.
Right.
And also visiting your doctor regularly, getting annual testing done helps you prevent these infections from causing any more serious complications.
And getting out of hand.
Yes.
Beth, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today with some really valuable information
Very
and
important
helping me to
information.
understand it too. This is stuff you
Yeah.
need to know.
And if you'd like to learn more about STD prevention and treatment, as well as more information on PRMC's lab, visit our website, wboc.com. Click on our picture at the top of the page.
Okay, so the latest sexual phenomenon in Hollywood is captivating women and men of all ages. The movie 50 Shades of Grey. So far, it's made over $500 million in worldwide ticket sales.
Now, while it's exposed a steamy lifestyle to the masses, it's nothing new to readers of the books of one author, Desiree Holt. In fact, Holt's books have not only inspired readers, but who the author is has surprised many. At her computer, in her country home, author Desiree Holt is writing about sex, the kind found in 50 Shades of Grey. The 78-year-old grandmother wraps the kink around romance.
What you're doing in erotic romance is opening the bedroom door.
Holt has been writing erotic romance novels for almost 10 years, and she's sold more than 200,000 books. An expert on the dominant role-playing genre featured in 50 Shades. She's no fan of the best-selling book.
If you're going to write about something, you should know what you're writing about.
Holt says 50 Shades of Grey doesn't accurately reflect the trust and agreements made between those who practice dominant and submissive role-play.
I am not in the lifestyle, but I have done a lot of research.
Sex therapist Kay Crow agrees.
I can tell you that I'm not a big fan of Shades of Grey simply because I think it misrepresents BDSM.
Book reviewer Toni Steiner has been reading Holt's books for years. She says when it comes to role-playing erotica, 50 Shades is late to the party.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
Fan Rhonda Griffith gives Holt's books credits for opening her eyes.
If me and my husband want to try some of the stuff, I call them self-help books.
And that is exactly what Desiree Holt is going for.
If a writer writes a good story, the people who read it will want to put themselves in the place of that heroine.
If Holt's book sales are any indication, thousands already have. And Holt is currently writing an 8-part series based on football. Her books can be found on Amazon.com. Football.
Football. Well, something else that can be found on the internet, pictures of your little one from the second they pop into the world. It's perfect for your family and friends, but can it be dangerous? After the break, we're going to learn about parents who are oversharing on social media, what more than half of moms are doing wrong, and how you can protect your family.
Well, no matter how much we love social media, it's proven to have a dark side. Next, we hear the story of one high-profile woman who lost her job after one bad tweet. We'll be right back.